Just like to say a few words about my great friend, Jack Grubbs. I think this verse from Second Timothy says so much about Jack's life. It says, "I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, I've kept the faith. There is now in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all those who have longed for his appearing." So Jack lived his life for the Lord, and he was a great friend for me, and continues to be. And I look forward to seeing him again in eternity. So Jack and I grew up in the town of Altadena, California. Jack's home was right about here, right at the base of this canyon, which is that's Mount Wilson in the background. This is Eaton Canyon, and so he grew up right in this area, right in here behind these trees. We met at Elliott Junior High School, and became good friends there. I had been kind of scorned by a couple of my elementary school friends at the time, and was searching for new friends, and Jack became that new best friend. And together with Greg Morrison, we hung out a lot, did a lot of fun things together. So again, we grew up in a beautiful community there at the foothill of the San Gabriel Mountains. And Jack was a great student, and these are just some cutouts from the junior high school newspaper. And so you can see that there's Jack right there, and myself. We were frequently associated in various different activities and events, and just hung out a lot together. Here's Jack right up here in the ninth grade honor society. And once again, just a photograph of our alma mater there for our junior high school. So, as I mentioned, Jack lived actually really on the side of the mountain in the foothills. His road to his house was very steep, and right behind him was just open country and a trail that actually would connect with the old Mount Wilson Toll Road. And we would hike along that trail to reach the Mount Wilson Toll Road, a road that was built in 1891 to transport telescopes to the top of the summit of Mount Wilson, a 5,700-foot summit. The road had been decommissioned back in the 30s, but it had become a nice hiking trail, and so we hiked up it. And that was one of our favorite things to do, is to hike up that trail right from Jack's house. And one winter morning, we decided to go play in the snow. So we just started hiking up there. It was 10 miles up, so a 20-mile round trip. Jack hiked the entire distance in tennis shoes, and I don't remember him complaining. I do remember him saying his feet were very cold, but he always had a smile on his feet. In fact, that was one thing that just characterized Jack, is he always had a great laugh and a great smile on his feet. I mean, it's on his face. So again, just the idea here is where Jack's home was here, and we wound our way up to the top of that peak and back in the snow. Summers were great. The Grubbs loved to go to the beach. His parents, Bayless and Marion, were, just wonderful folks. His dad taught photography at Alhambra High School, and we would frequently see him taking walks in our neighborhood out in front of our house, and so we'd always say hi to Bayless. And they enjoyed taking myself and Greg Morrison to the beach, to Huntington Beach. And so we'd go basically body surfing and take inflatable rafts, and they would have multiple sets of waves out there. In fact, actually quite large waves sometimes. And of course, we just loved what we referred to as the killer waves. So when Jack's parents would take us to the beach, we'd always go out to a nice restaurant afterwards. When Greg Morrison's parents would take us out, and we'd always have like a bonfire on the beach and dinner, and they were all just wonderful memories, wrestling together in the sand and having a fun time. So again, this is not unlike the many waves that we encountered there at Huntington Beach, and became pretty good in terms of catching those waves. So this is, again, just a transition from Elliott Junior High School to our alma mater, John Muir High School in Pasadena. You can see the Jacks right there. He's up on top there of just the causeway there. Jack was a great tennis player. He's one of the lead tennis players on the team. And here's just a picture of the team there. We hung out a lot together. Here's Jack and myself and common friends, Craig Marks and Stephen Misaki, in the quad there at Muir. Spent many hours just talking. And you notice that Jack was really becoming very interested in the things of God at that time. He started going to church, started to talk about the gospel and talk about the Lord. I subsequently became a Christian shortly after that, and we developed a friendship that was not just based upon, our common interests and so forth, but really based upon the Lord, and that made a huge difference and helped our relationship just continue to grow over the years. So these are just photos from John Muir High School. From the campus. This is a quad where we spent many lunches and so forth, just talking, catching up with each other and so forth. So this is the front of John Muir High School, and there's again the quad where we spent much of our time. Jack he was the first of our friends to get a car. He had an AMC Gremlin, which was kind of an ugly car, but I think he bought it specifically because it was ugly. So he was the first of our friends to buy a car, and we used to drive around town in his Gremlin. And one of the things he loved to do was to rev up the engine and then turn on off and on the ignition, make it backfire to have huge explosions. Probably didn't do too much good for his his car, but it was a lot of fun. We had a great time just hanging out there. So here's some more pictures. Here's Jack and myself and our good mutual friends, Craig Marks and Gary Sprague. This is being honored for another Scholastic Award, Governor Scholarship, I guess. And Jack's senior photo. Here we are graduating in the Rose Bowl. That was our home stadium. Pasadena owns the Rose Bowl. And so Jack was one of these guys down here in blue. The blue was all members of John Muir High School. So Jack went on to Westmont College and then to USC, and I went on to UC Irvine, UC Davis, and UCLA. But we continued to keep in good correspondence with each other, initially through letters and Christmas cards and so forth, and but then also through email later on. At this time, it was prior to email. This is Jack and Susan at their first home that they purchased to help them move out of their apartment and into this home. And then my first wife, Roberta, and the home that we lived in. And Jack was very kind to me when Roberta passed away in 2010. I always remember just hearing his voice and emails and so forth, and just great compassion and so forth. Just a wonderful man of God. I appreciate Jack so much. Here's where Roberta and I and our children were visiting the Grubbs there in Virginia. And again, it was wonderful. Whenever we could, we'd like to visit each other. So there's a visit there in Virginia. Here, Roberta and I are visiting back in 2008. They moved to a new home there, also in Virginia. And again, my wife passed away in 2010. 2016, I subsequently got remarried, and Carolyn and I visited the Grubbs here. This was just about 3 years ago, just after church service, where I was able to go and worship with Jack there. And then another picture just outside the church there. So just always really impressed by Jack's concern for the needy, the poor, the underprivileged, from his early efforts with by basically microeconomic development for the very poor in other countries, to to working there in Baltimore with some people with very clear needs and so forth, to then working with the Shade, the organization his daughter and son-in-law have been involved with for some time now, in terms of bringing help to the albino population of Tanzania. Jack's always been a great inspiration to me in that regard. And this was a visit that Carolyn and I made just in May of last year. And, the scripture came to mind that now we know that if this earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. What a great promise that is. And then when we say goodbye to Jack, we need to remember that the real meaning of goodbye is God be with ye. It's an old English phrase. And so it really means until we meet again. And so, Jack, until we meet again, we miss you, brother, but we are looking so much forward to that great reunion. God bless you, and God bless your family.